One of the most basic facts in psychology is that your brain is hardwired to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. Which begs the question, why do we sometimes get stuck in toxic loops that cause us pain? Why do we keep getting into those bad relationships that become toxic? Why do we keep getting into those companies that have toxic management? Why do we become workaholics? Why do we have an addiction? These things clearly cause us pain, so surely our brain should be moving us away from that pain and towards pleasure. Well, believe it or not, your brain's doing what it's designed to do. It is moving you towards pleasure, but not in the way you would like it to. You see, consciously, your brain and you see that stuff as being painful, but unconsciously, the part of you that's a million times more powerful than your conscious mind sees that stuff as being pleasurable. Therefore, you unconsciously move towards it and can't consciously get yourself out of those situations. You keep falling into them, you keep getting sucked into them. So why does the unconscious mind see this stuff, this toxicity, this pain, as being pleasure? Because it's not a sadomasochist, even though sometimes it feels like it is. It does so because, let's put it this way, imagine you're a young child and you've been brought up in a family that's quite abusive. Now, because you're a young child, you don't have a critical factor in your brain, which means anything that happens outside of you goes straight onto your unconscious blueprint of life and becomes normal to you. It becomes a familiar pattern. We sometimes call it a subconscious schema. That becomes the norm. That is familiar, and your unconscious mind sees familiar as being pleasure. And it sees familiar as being pleasure because familiar is safe. Familiar means it can predict what's coming. That's why when you get growing up, and when you do grow up, you get pulled into these situations that consciously you know are causing you pain, addiction, workaholism, toxic relationships, etc., but unconsciously are causing you pleasure because it's familiar. This is what you know. So if you want to live a life where you're not constantly being pulled into toxic, negative, painful loops, you need to get into your unconscious mind and change the blueprint. Your unconscious needs to know that that stuff that feels familiar may feel to it like it's pleasure, but it's actually causing you pain. How do you do that? Through subconscious bullshit elimination.